war profiteers come in different shapes and sizes. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says endless wars are the goal.
The goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
War can be noble, but also a business opportunity. So today, Ukrainian President Zelensky told the United Nations what it wanted to hear.
Humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives. This means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. When islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war.
What country is disappearing underwater? And his country's getting shelled to death and he's begging us to buy electric cars? Sounds like he's just trying to consolidate Western support for Ukraine by speaking their language and appealing to their green god. Joe Biden approves this message.
I asked the United States Congress for additional funds to expand World Bank financing by $25 billion. If you allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. It's not only an investment in Ukraine's future, but in the future of every country.
So we have to save the future of the world by saving Ukraine. That is the message. Save democracy, the environment, and the children. And once you say those magic words, the Clintons appear. Today, just 5 minutes from the United Nations, the Clinton Global Initiative announced their very own program to rebuild Ukraine. In other words, the Clintons have found their new Haiti.
Do we really believe we can make the future better for ourselves and others or not? Doesn't matter if I'm rich and famous and powerful, I can still make a difference, and I can't let anything stand in my way.
Then came Hillary, 1-2 punch.
I believe their fight is our fight, their fight for freedom. So we have to stay with the Ukrainians, and it is really important not to push them to negotiate when, number one, the person you negotiate with is not trustworthy. You cannot trust anything he says.
Diplomat Hillary doesn't want a peace summit. Why rebuild half the country when you can rebuild the whole country years later? They're calling it the Clinton Global Initiative Ukraine Action Network, in a salute to Al Sharpton, whose charities never dodge taxes. Early investors include actor Matt Damon, Liv Schreiber, the Ford Foundation, and of course, Airbnb. Also, the World Bank is in bed with the Clinton Ukraine Action Network. So what did Joe Biden just tell us? The U.S. is sending the World Bank $25 billion, and then the World Bank is sending the money to the Clintons, and then the Clintons are sending it to Ukraine. Now, if you think the Clintons are the only profiteers feasting on the proxy war, you're wrong. Joe Biden just appointed a Democrat mega donor to be Ukraine reconstruction czar.
We are pleased to extend a warm welcome to Penny Pritzker, former Secretary of Commerce, who was named by President Biden as the special representative for Ukraine's economic recovery.
So how is Penny Pritzker qualified to rebuild Ukraine? Well, she's a billionaire heiress of the Pritzker family who founded Hyatt Hotels and who bankrolled Obama's election. And in return, Penny was named Commerce Secretary, where she just happened to travel to Ukraine at least 3 times, hand-delivering the billion-dollar loans that Biden leveraged to get the prosecutor fired. Guess who she brought with her to Ukraine? Hyatt Hotel executives. You know, the company she owns. Also the DuPonts, the Delaware chemical tycoons who sponsor Joe Biden. Penny is the perfect czar. But this gravy train doesn't stop there. Head of the teachers' unions, Randy Weingartner, has taken a keen interest in a war zone.
In the last year, I've been in Ukraine 3 times, I and several of my other officers, and what we have attempted to do is to support children's education and support democratic principles. Because at the end of the day, if we do not do that in Ukraine, what happens to the rest of the world?
Your children's schools are crumbling, but Randy wants to rebuild Ukraine's schools. And why has the American Teachers Union president been to Ukraine more than Chicago? We'll never know exactly what Randy, Penny, and Hillary are doing there, and that's the point. We're not even allowed to ask exactly where our $100 billion of aid we sent went. The Ukrainian army's disinformation czar says asking questions is treasonous. The czar's name's Sarah. Sarah is transgender. Sarah is an American. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance asked the Pentagon if she was an intelligence operative because clearly something's going on here. Senator Vance asked because Sarah fled our country to fight in Ukraine, so is she on the CIA payroll or what? Simple question. Why is an American trans man the spokesman for the Ukrainian military? Is this a psyop to rattle the Russians? Or is this a transgender disinformation czar, the perfect person to execute the propaganda war? And if we ask these questions, Sarah says we are creating gender chaos.
Senator Vance recently asked the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, along with the Secretaries of State and Defense, if I was working in some capacity for the American government. Simply put, I'm an American serving as a Ukrainian infantry soldier and combat medic in the dual role of spokesperson and Russian disinformation analyst. The remaining speculation surrounding me is disappointing. While in Ukraine we are fighting for global liberty and the ideology of victory, too many in Moscow and across the world are still caught up in focusing on the tired trope of gender chaos. I only answer to three groups of people: my Ukrainian commanders, the Ukrainian people, and the American taxpayer.
Oh, the American taxpayer. So we're paying Sarah's salary.